So the Block Developer Cookbook is an interactive workshop where we're going to pick the recipes that we're going to work on together, and they could be complicated, they could be simple. So I was trying to tweet about this like crazy, but what we're going to want to do is head over to blockdevelopercookbook.com, where I'm going to zoom this in a little bit, and we want to vote on the recipes that we're going to be working on. So go to the conferences section, go to WordCamp US 2025. Now you will need an account for this, so if you haven't done that yet, go ahead. And then all we're going to do is you're going to read through the ingredients or the recipes here, and you're going to just pick the one that you want, and then the time allotted will fill up. When you run out of time, that's your votes, and then we'll vote for 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes or something, and we'll track the results in real time. There are no results yet. That is where your hacking skills come in. You have to, it's Stumptown is the password. So, no, I got to keep the riff-raff right? It's just for people in the room. So, so these are the instructions. We'll leave it for about 10 minutes, so it's like, so we have some time to vote. If anyone has any questions or issues or anything, I'll just be around. And then once we turn off voting, we'll start working on the recipes. Again, we'll go most voted to least voted, and we'll see how many we can get done in the time we have available. Let's see, do we have any votes yet? Oh, we got a vote. Perfect, all right. I'll just leave the instructions back up in case anyone wants, and then we'll switch back over and do that. Just a note, if you have questions at all during this, just let me know, because we're going to be doing a lot of different things, and if I wait till questions for the end, I'll probably forget what we were talking about at the time, and I'm sure you all will as well. So, yeah. What's the question? You'll have to create an account. So if you go here, you can press the login button, and it'll ask you. There's a registration option in there, and then you can create an account. No, that Stumptown password is just to get access to the conference. Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to come up with a way where people wouldn't have to create an account, but then how would I get your emails for spamming you? So. No, I promise I will not spam you. There is an optional sign up for a newsletter thing, but whatever. Yeah. Ooh, converting to a dynamic block, a new one. I just added that one. You can't vote more than you can. Well, I mean, you can vote for more than one recipe, but you can't front load the votes for all one thing. So, and if there's a tie, well, we'll just go in the order they're rendered. Yes?
Could you put the instructions?
Yes, absolutely. And here we go. So if you don't have a local development environment, this may be a little less interactive. If you do, there's a couple of ways that you can get the recipes installed. You can get the whole repository if you want, or if you'd rather, there are some npm commands in each recipe that you can run in your plugins directory that will give you all the files that you need. There's a couple of ways of getting this set up. So I'm hoping one, that the internet cooperates, and two, that, we have some fun. So, where are we, 151. Oh, geez, I'm sorry. Wow, it's my first time with a microphone. All right, let's check and see how we're doing. Oh, converting to a dynamic block is in the commanding lead of 5 votes. Very cool. Some of these ones are a little bit longer, so they may take up the majority of the time. So, but I will say this website is available at all times. You can go back, and this list of the voting list will be available after as well. So if you want to follow, if you want to do this at home, you absolutely can. You don't need to, it won't be lost when we all go to the after party. If you do have questions and you're in the very back, you might have to yell. I probably won't notice it. So, or you could just move up front. Oh, and I have T-shirts for whoever asks the best questions. I have 3 or 4 T-shirts that I'll give you. Some studio T-shirts from my friends from WordPress Studio. So. And stickers, if you want those too. This is the boring, awkward part where I keep trying to fill the silence because I'm socially awkward otherwise. You can vote per recipe once, but you can vote for as many recipes as you. Okay, so let me explain that in proper English. You can add a recipe, and when you do, you'll see the time allotted gets incremented. So when we run out of time for the workshop, you won't be able to vote anymore. But you can pick for any of the ones that you want. So I don't know if my internet's. I'm getting saving. Uh-oh. Oh, thank you for whoever put me out of my misery and put music on in the background. Well played. Well played. All right, we've got maybe 1 or 2 more minutes. Is there anyone that just has not at all voted and won't be done in a minute or 2? Or okay. Okay. Is this Christmas music? If you've ever seen my live streams, I play much different music on my live streams. I'm so sorry. Hot mic. It's a hot mic, Andy. Sorry about that. Okay, I think I'm going to call it, but you can continue to vote while we start working on the recipes because I'm going to be coming back to this page to sort of refer to what we're working on. So the winner is converting to a dynamic block. So to do that, we're going to head over to recipes, and they're going to look at, oh, you know what? I should probably keep that tab open. We're going to look for the converting to a dynamic block recipe. So every recipe is set up like this. We've got an overview, which is a AI-generated thing that makes it sound like we're making cookies or something. And then in the setup panel, now if you've downloaded the repository, there's the setup instructions for that. If you just have like a WordPress environment and you just want to add these as you go, you can use these commands that I've provided and just run those inside your plugin directory, and you will get the plugin scaffolded. So I've actually taken the liberty of already downloading all these things. So I'm just going to jump over to here. And in content and plugins, I have a whole bunch of these things. So the one we're looking for right now is convert static block. So I'm going to open up my terminal, clear that. I'm going to go cd. I'm already there. Plugins, convert. Static block. So I've already downloaded all the files. I have the build process in place, so I'm just going to hit npm start, and that's going to start building the block that we're going to be working on. And I'm going to hide this. So I have a local development environment here. I'm using WordPress Studio. So I'm going to open up that up, zoom in a little bit. If at any point this is not zoomed in enough or too much or whatever, just let me know, and I'll make some adjustments. So we're going to do a new post in here. This is going to be convert to dynamic. I'm just going to publish this. All right, so let's look at the recipe. Okay, so for this recipe, we're going to continue working with another recipe that we haven't worked with yet, so this might seem a little weird, but basically what it's going to give us is a fully finished block. And it's going to be a static block, meaning that the content of that block is saved, the output of that block is saved into post content. Now there's not a lot of great reasons why you'd want to do that, but there's also some reasons why you would not. For example, when you want to make markup changes, that can get problematic. So what we're going to do to set this up is we are going to insert a block here. And if I can find the right tab, there we go. other thing that we have to do, and I will forget to do this every single time, is come over here and activate the plugin that introduces all of our files. So we'll come back here, and I think I just have a recipe. I have to remember the name of the block now. Where we convert static block. In here, source files, block JSON, it's convert static block. Okay, so we go. Convert static block. So this is the block that we've built. Let's say we've inherited this from a client, right? And it's existed on their website for a long time. So for the purposes of what we're doing today, I want to make sure everyone inserts this block and then hits save. Because what we need to have is we need to have all of this stuff saved into the post content, which is how static blocks save their output, okay? And this becomes much more important later, but there's a bit of setup to this. Okay, so now let's jump back over the recipe, and we'll see. So, I did it again, I'm so sorry. So we're gonna look at how a dynamic block is actually rendered. So when you're talking about static versus dynamic blocks have a save.js file, which you can see, well, it's right here. So this is actually the JSX and everything that's output and saved to post content. But a dynamic block uses render.php to render its front end on the front end. So this is always run all the time. So it's not part of the post content, which makes certain things a lot easier. So the first thing, so this is just going through the save file. So in order to convert our block to a dynamic block, we really only have to do sort of one thing. We have to add this to our block JSON. Is everyone familiar with block JSON? And yeah, okay. If anyone not, maybe I should do that way. Just if you're not familiar, just raise your hand. I'll do a little piece on it. Okay, so block JSON is basically the definition for a block. So it's how blocks are defined. It's what they can do with their name, their title, the category that they appear in, the description. It's where we define things called attributes. So if you want, in this case, we have an attribute called name, and it's of the type string, and it's got a default value of classic chocolate chip recipes. So if you need your block to save something, you need to give it an attribute. Now this could be an attribute that is like forward facing, that it's actually seen, or it could be something like the way it's aligned. So any information that you want to store with your block, you would save it in attributes. And then these entries here are the files that make up your block. I'd highly recommend that you go to the block editor handbook at developer.wordpress.org and read up on this. But the block JSON file is the framework, the definition of what a block is and how it's built, okay? So what we need to add is we're going to want to add this line to it. So this line is that zoomed in enough? Is everyone okay? No? Can't? Okay. More zoom. More dots. Sorry? Still more. Oh. Well, this is supposed to be blurry, by the way. Yeah. You didn't bring your glasses? Oh, come on. No. I'm highlighting the changes really. So, So this is what we're going to be adding to our block JSON. So I'm just going to copy that. There's a lot of copy and paste in this. We're going to add that in there. So now with our build process running, it's going to make the changes that we need to make, right? And then now if we go to the front end of that post, we can look at this here. We can see that now we have hi from render.php. So let me take that off, and I'll show you what it would look like without that, which I probably should have done first. But I was panicking because I thought so that's the actual output that's in our save.js. So by just defining the render in here, what we're doing is we're overriding how the block is rendering itself. Because, where am I here? So what it's doing is, by default, when we register our block down here, we define our edit state, our edit component, which is what it looks like inside the block editor. We define the save function, which is all contained inside of this, and some other things like deprecations and whatnot. But when render is available, when this file is available, it doesn't care what's in save. It just shows what's in render, which is important to know. So when I put that back, now we're going to get hi from render.php. So all that markup it's still there, but it's being overwritten, and whatever's in the contents of this is being displayed, okay? Let's see, okay, so then, so what we want to do though is we want to, so we're going to go back into the block editor and we're going to make a change to the recipe. So we'll notice that the block editor still looks like this. So I'm going to put 200 cups of sugar because that's the appropriate amount for cookies. And if we switch to the code editor, you can see, sorry, too many tabs. You can see that this, this content is being updated wherever I put 200. I'm going to do a search for 200 maybe. There it is. So you can see that it's still actually, it's still writing this content. So the contents of that save.js file are still being written to the post content, which is not really what we want. We don't want that happening. Sometimes you might want that happening. There's an interesting concept here of having a backup for your block, meaning that with a dynamic block, if it's introduced via a plugin, and you turn that plugin off, because the front end via the render.php is rendered dynamically, the plugin's not there anymore, you lose the front end of your site. But if you've already got it saved in post content, then you get a bit of a backup. Now there's other issues you'll run into with that, but anyways, but we don't want this anymore. We don't want to save any of this to the post content. So let's look at the next step here. All right, you can see this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make a quick change to the registered block type call. We're going to tell save to return null, and that is effectively going to say don't return anything. This is the part where you have to watch me type poorly, right? So once we do that, we're going to get some things. But so if we come back over here and we refresh this, we should get a block validation error. So this is the bane of every web developer's. Yes, you have a question?
Is anybody else stuck on installing WordPress/scripts? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm stuck.
I'm not stuck.
Okay. It's installing WordPress scripts. Okay. Are you on the what Wi-Fi are you on? Are you on the word? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I was kind of hoping everyone would have downloaded the repo and came with it all pre-installed, but
Install the specific block we're doing.
yeah.
The npx command is what's hanging.
Yeah, because it's probably the internet's probably the problem. Yeah. And of course, everyone's doing it at the same time. So I want you to all line up, bring your computers. We'll do it one at a time. Okay, we'll stagger this. So yeah, unfortunately, there's not much I can do about the Wi-Fi, but yeah. I'll wait till everyone's done, and then we'll start over. And then we'll wait till everyone's done. Yeah. So, but I will say this: I kind of expected this to happen at some point in the day. But all of these recipes are available at Block Developer Cookbook at all times. So when you go home and you have proper Wi-Fi, you can go through all of this. You just won't get the benefit of listening to me ramble. So, what's that? Yeah, you are going to my Twitch channel, yeah. So anyway, so this is a block validation error, and if you've been building blocks for any length of time, especially static blocks, you probably would have seen this. And this happens when the markup that is in the database doesn't match the markup that's returned in the save property. So, and you can see that if you look inside the console. You can see you get this big ugly error, and it basically says, this save returned nothing, and what's retrieved from post body returned all of this. What do you want me to do with that? I don't know how to handle that conversion. Now, this will only happen with a block that you've already put in and you've already saved, because if you put a new block in, you don't have that sort of conflict already, right? So the way that we have to address this is with what's called a deprecation, where we tell the block editor, this is what a block used to look like, and so now you can convert it from whatever that was to whatever this is, right? So let's do that now, right? So what we're going to do is there's a deprecations file in here. We're going to open that up, and there's nothing in it right now. What deprecations are, they are an array of objects, and those objects contain the save function, like the return of the save function, the attributes, and potentially some other things. So we're just going to grab all of this code, and I'll sort of explain it in a second, right? Again, the blurry stuff is blurry on purpose. Yes?
I haven't done this for a while, but is that deprecation file included now when you do the create block, or?
No, I don't believe it is. No, it's not. So you want to do that. Now, if you have one deprecation, you could just add it right into your registered block type. But I like to split my files out in case we need to have multiples. Like, for some blocks that have been around a very long time, you may have 30 deprecations, so it gets a little tedious to do. So anyway, so I'm just going to take what I copied. I didn't copy it. There we go. Let's try that. I'm going to paste that in there. Okay, and I'll take us through this. So what it basically contains is parts of the block JSON. So in here, we just have the definition of the attributes of this block. Now, if you haven't changed it, that's fine. You need to keep it in there, just so the block knows what it's supposed to do with that attribute at this point in time. The part that's all of this stuff, this is everything that came out of save.js. To do this, I literally just copied all of this and plunked it into the return of this save. And then now that this is in place, we'll save this. We should be able to refresh this page. It's important to not click, just for the purposes of demonstrating this, I said that really weird, not to click this and not to hit save, because now that it's rebuilt, it should be able to refresh this, and it goes, oh, okay, thanks, now I know what to do. And then, so now it works, right? And then, so now if we make a change, and then we save it, we should see it's a much different, what's being saved to the database is much different. So let's jump over there. In here, we're going to set this back to 3 cups, 2 cups, whatever, it doesn't matter. Hit save. We're going to look at the code editor, and that's a much different experience now. So this is how you know you're looking at a dynamic block. It's really just a placeholder for where this block appears in the content. Because it doesn't need to render any markup, because that's all handled from the front end. And I believe that's the last step of this particular recipe. So we'll scroll down here. So now we want to render the front end. So really at this point, all we have to do is take this markup and move it into PHP. So I've done a bit of work in here, but you could take the markup from save.js, all of this stuff, paste it into render, and then make some appropriate changes to remove things. Things like class name. A class name is a React thing. Like if you want something to have a class, you can't use class because it's a reserved word in JavaScript. So they use class name. So there's some things that you'll have to make some changes to. You'll have to get rid of some of the components. But I've done all that for us. So now if we grab this, we jump over here, we refresh this. Now we have everything is being rendered in PHP. So we have to fill in these pieces. So to do that, there's 2 things that we're going to need to do. In our render.php file, it's a special type of file that has access to 3 variables like global variables. So if you remember get template part, like back in, it's very similar to that. This is being included in a specific point, and it's given these variables automatically. So what we want to get access to is we need the name of this recipe. So the name comes from this magic global variable called attributes, and any attribute that you have in there, it would be an array of all those attribute values. So all we need to do, oh, I realize there's no semicolon here, so don't put this in and hit save because you will white screen the site. So we're going to need that, right? And then we need to display it down here. So to do that safely, it's funny how I have escaping, but I'm missing a semicolon. I have to fix that, right? So now this should output, instead of it saying, instead of saying title, it should say chocolate chip cookies, classic chocolate chip cookies. The next part is the way this block is built. In the edit state, we have, these are like inner blocks. So if we look at how this works, I have an ingredients sort of wrapper and an instructions wrapper, and then there's like list items and all of this stuff in it. So these are core blocks. So we need to get that information out of these core blocks to be able to display it for us on the front end. So to do that, we have to make another change to our edit, right? So what we do, so that to create those instances where you can insert blocks, you use a component called inner blocks, or you could use a new hook called use inner blocks props. It does the same thing. So we've done that in the edit portion, which is this is a lot going on, but there is a rich text. So the rich text is a component that we use to be able to type inside the block editor. And then we have this inner blocks instance. So this is going to contain all of those detail blocks, all the list blocks, all that sort of stuff. So we need that good information out of there so we can do that. So to make that happen, in our edit.js, we have to actually return something from save. Now this feels a little counterintuitive, I realize, because this doesn't actually get saved to the post content. It just gets returned to us to be used in the render.php. So we just want to grab this, which is inner blocks dot content without the / and double thing. So a lot of what I'm doing, I've already imported this stuff. So if you're kind of new to JavaScript, I'll always be sure that you're importing from the package that you want to use. I add it because it's boilerplate, and and I like to mess with people, I guess. Cool. So now that we have that, everything that's in that inner blocks instance is going to get returned and pass over to render.php in a new global variable that we can then render. Right. So now that we've done that, we'll go over to our PHP file again, and it's a handy variable called content. So all we have to do now to make it work is go to where we have recipe content, and we're going to escape the content variable. Again, this is a magic variable that just exists. If there is nothing that's being returned, it may just be empty, but you just know it's there, okay? And so if we refresh this now, it didn't work. It's weird. There's probably something magical I've forgotten. No. Okay, all right, so let's do some debugging. This is a great example of how to debug. And the way to do proper debugging is with a die statement. So let's see what's in content. Or we could probably just var dump content at this point. So it's strange that there's no, oh, I think I know why. My guess is that this is empty. So yeah, so it's an empty string. Does anyone know why it's an empty string? Shout it out if you got it. It's already running, but you're on the right track. It's because I don't think I saved it. So because my save is returning null, it's always returning null. But I made that change and didn't save the block. So I bet if I come in here and I go and I hit save and I refresh this. Now if I'm wrong, I'm just going to pack up my laptop and leave. Oh, I was wrong. Refresh the editor. Who said that? Corey, I knew it was you. You're so, yeah, that's probably what it was. Because the block wasn't being refreshed. This is right, because I'm actually var dumping, but it's down here. So Corey, I'm going to let him run the rest of the workshop. If you've ever come to any one of my streams, this is literally how it works. I'm like, check it out, I'm so smart. And it doesn't work, and I don't know why. And then someone in chat goes, because you didn't do this. And I go, okay, great. And then I take all credit for it. So great. So that's the first one. I think that's the first one. Let's look. Yeah, and we're done. So any questions about any of that beyond why is the internet not working for me today? Anybody? Yep.
Can you show the connection for the name attribute?
Yes. Sure. So the name attribute, in the edit.js? Yeah, okay. So now this markup comes from a previous recipe example. So there's a bit of sort of like you just have to know that it exists. But the way that we are handling the ability to enter that data is with this really cool component called rich text. And what it is, it's you can literally, it allows you to come into here and just say like Corey saves the day, right? So that's how we can get that interactivity. It used to be like you can also do it like in other ways, but this is like the most integrated way, in my opinion. And it's a very, very powerful component because you can tell it the type of tag that it needs to render. You can do all kinds of things with it. I think, did I turn this off? No, but I should, but you can actually make it so it can only insert one line, which I didn't do here because everyone needs 50 lines for their title. Yeah, does that sort of show it? Okay, cool. Any other questions before we see what the next one on the list is? No? Cool, awesome. All right, so let's look at the results. So the next one is, oh, this one snuck in. Okay, preset block bindings with variations. I love this one. Love this one. Does everyone know what block bindings are? Yes? Does anyone not know what block bindings are? I'm going to start asking that question instead. If you don't, okay. Block bindings are the greatest thing ever. It is the ability to take a core block, certain core blocks, and connect them to a meta field or any dynamic source that you can define. So if you've always wanted to show a custom field in the block editor, you can now do that via the UI, which is very cool. So let's take a look at how that one works. Back to recipes here. And preset, is it preset? Is it the preset one? Oh, where am I? Preset block bindings, yeah. Okay, so this one's a really quick one. So you can run this again if you want. There's another command that will run and scaffold the files. It's all in there. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go in here. I'm gonna close all this up, and where is it? Preset block bindings. So every one of these is a plugin. So there's going to be a PHP file and everything that we need in there. So what we want to do is we're going to connect a piece of meta to a block, right? And this isn't like, this exists in core, but what we're going to do is make it so it's a little bit easier for clients, right? So I'm going to just grab this function. I'm going to drop it inside our PHP file. Just anywhere is fine. A little bit of a PHP CS error there. And all this is doing is this is just registering a piece of post meta. It's called my_custom_data. It's in the REST API. It's single. It's the type of string. There's some auth callback stuff, and then there's a default value. This doesn't really matter for the purposes of what we're doing today. We just need a piece of post meta to be able to work with it. Yeah. And I realize I have to do this. I'm going to cancel it. Sorry. I'm going to go into preset npm start, and then I have to go and enable the plugin to get this to work. So we're going to come back in here, plugins. There's a lot of setup. Preset block bindings. Okay, we're going to activate that. Okay, I'll post. Wow, this is the best I've ever typed in front of an audience in my life. Oh, and I just jinxed it. Okay, cool. All right, enough of that. All right, so let's look. Preset block bindings. So we've registered our post meta, right? The other thing that file is doing is just enqueuing the JavaScript that we need, right? Because we're going to be using a bit of JavaScript here. So what we want to do is we're going to register a block variation. So if you're not familiar with block variations, it's literally what it sounds like. Like if you have a block, you can make a variation of that block with some preset stuff. Like an example would be if you wanted to have a header block that always said, Corey saves the day, which is going to be the running joke for the rest of this workshop. You could do that by registering a block variation for the core heading block and setting the, I think it's the content, I think is the name of the attribute. And then that appears as its own like custom block, even though it's more just like a flavor of an existing one. So what we're going to do is we're going to register a block variation in our JavaScript right in here, and it's right in here, and we're going to just do this right here. Okay, and so we're going to make a variation of the core paragraph block because we just want to show some text. We're going to call it show my data, and the title is show my data. We're going to add a description, and then the scope is basically where it appears. Like you can put it in the inserter, and you can also transform to this block. This stuff doesn't matter so much, but we'll get there. So now if we, we can rebuild it. Sorry, we'll jump in here. We should be able to go to right here. I'm going to have so many tabs by the end of this. It's ridiculous. Okay, so we're going to refresh the page because apparently Corey wants us to do that. And we're going to search for our, I'm doing here. I'll go, oh, what did I call it? Show my data, right? So this looks just like a paragraph block, but it also gives the impression of it's its own standalone block, right? So if I insert that, you can see it's not really, it's there, but it's not, like I keep pressing this and it keeps doing things, but like what if, like it's not really working. But we'll get to that in a second. That's by design. Trust me. Okay, so the thing that we can do here though is we can make these binding connections. So let's say I grab this block, right? And I come down here to attributes. And the paragraph block has an attribute called content. That's where the content of the block is stored, like the string, right? So if I select that, now I can say, okay, I want to bind something to this. So I'm going to bind my custom data to that block. And you see now it's displaying the default value of that particular piece of post meta, which is really, really cool. So if we were to come in here, and this is the thing that I have a there's a command palette recipe in here where we show you how to build this so you don't have to do this stupid 5 clicks to show the things. Oh wait, sorry. I'm ahead of myself here. I have to get rid of this. But basically what it's doing is it's pulling from the custom field. The custom field at this point doesn't have any data. That's just the default data. So if I write this, which is, check this out though. This is so cool. We have two-way syncing here. This is the new data. So if I save this and I go like this, we should see this is the new data. So we're updating and editing custom post meta directly in the block editor. Like, this is core stuff. There's nothing magic here. See, it's all right here. But the purpose of what we're doing today is that is a very multi-step process that can be very complicated. And if you have a client that is maybe not that technical savvy, or you have ACF or SCF or whatever it is you're using, and you have 50 post meta fields, they might pick the wrong one, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to preset this for them. Okay, I'm just going to turn this off here. Does anyone have any questions so far? While I'm clicking around? No? No? Good? Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to build out, I'm going to show you what this looks like, code editor. So I'll get rid of these so there's not really any confusion here. So the way that we make this connection is through this extremely complicated JSON object. It's metadata.bindings.content.source or args.key custom data. So like obviously you can just copy and paste this in, right? Your client won't break it at all. So but what we're going to do is we're going to pre-bind this in our variation. So we already have the code there. So I'm just going to grab it and it looks like this. Oops. We're going to do this. And we're just going to add it to the variation that we have generated, or created, registered is the word I'm looking for. And you can see we have attributes, metadata, bindings, content. So the source of the content is core post meta. There's really only one source at the moment that ships with core, but you can create your own sources. And you can literally bind anything to anything at that point. And that's super powerful. Did you have a question? Yeah.
What's the difference if we use register meta or register post meta?
I think register meta predates post meta, and I think it calls it on the inside. I think. I'm pretty sure. Register post meta, I think you don't have to pass as many arguments. You may have to look that up. I think. Yeah, because I think you have to pass the type of meta that you're creating. I might be making this up, like literally just making it up. No idea. But I'm up here. You have to believe me, right? So.
I remember when I first tried block bindings,
Yeah.
I think I tried with register meta and it doesn't work, but it worked with register post meta, so maybe it's me doing
There might be, I think it's because register meta is lower level, so there's probably some arguments that are being passed to it from register post meta that may be doing it. Also, the most important part of this is you have to expose this meta to the REST API, because the block editor is a JavaScript application, and it only has the REST API to get its information. So if it's not there, it won't work. Even though you may have registered it correctly, it just won't show up without it being shown REST is true. No, thank you. Thank you for the sticker earlier today, by the way. Cool, so now that we have this, we can just have that automatically preset. But we're going to have the same problem that we had before, where it doesn't look like the block that we've created still looks like a paragraph block. What am I doing here? Okay, cool. Let's get rid of. See, this still looks like this block, even though we do have a variation. Like the variation's not showing up. Like we can switch it. See, I'm trying to switch it, but it doesn't know that this is supposed to be that variation. So I keep harping on this, but I'll show you the way of doing it right now, and then we'll move on to the next one. So in here, we have to use this isActive attribute, or property, I should say. And what this tells Gutenberg is to check. This is the check to see if this variation is the active variation or if this is actually just a paragraph block. And the way it does it is, if the value of metadata.binding.content.args.key matches what's been defined in attributes, then this is like, oh, this is the show my data block, right? Does that sort of make sense? There's other things that you can do in here. You can actually add a bunch of things. Sometimes it's just as easy as saying, does this class name match the class name that I've defined? right? And so now if we refresh this, wherever that is, we should, no, refresh this. We should see that if I click on this, you can see, oh, look, now it is a show my data block. It's because that is active, is sort of the last piece to make it all connect. And so this becomes much, much easier now if I want to, if you have a client and you say, show my data, now it's automatically connected. It's automatically showing the value of that piece of post meta. So, and that, I believe, is the end of that. How much time do I have left? Lots of time. Lots of time. Yeah, and so that one's done. Any questions about that? It's a pretty simple one, but it's a lifesaver when you have tons and tons of post meta. Anybody? Yes? Yeah.
Two-way sync. Is there a way to disable that two-way sync? In case you want to prevent the client from like adding crazy content while editing?
No, but you could by defining a custom binding source. So custom binding sources require you to create the back end and the front end. So you could just leave the front end off. That's interesting. I don't think that there is actually a way of doing that because for the most part, like what use case would there be? Not to challenge your question, but just like what would be the use case of that? Because it's interesting, it'd be interesting feedback to take to the team that's actually working on the binding stuff. So.
It's mostly just like, you know, I'm a developer,
Yeah.
so I'm going to always check my work within the custom meta fields. But
Right.
and make some mistake by accidentally going in, editing content, and now the custom meta field is.
Oh, it's completely broken. Yeah. I don't think that there's a way to pick and choose whether or not you can do it. But you could probably do some things in the block editor to do some validation. You could probably not allow block bindings that you could. Yeah. We could solution all day, but there's probably some ways to do it. But that's it's an interesting point. I don't know offhand if there's a way of doing it, maybe in a filter somewhere, but I don't think so. But I'll bring that up with the folks that do the real work on this stuff. Cool. Is there somebody else that had a question? No. Okay. All right. Where are we now? So, oh look, block deprecations. Okay. This is so hard to demo. So we'll see. We'll see how it works. Okay. So we talked about block deprecations in the last one. So this is actually the recipe block that fed into the first one that we did. So let's take a look at that. Okay, I'm going to go back to posts. Okay, we're going to go block deprecations. Does anyone else not know how to spell block deprecation? Because I sure don't. Okay. Okay, so let's kill this. We're going to go in here. We're going to go, no, is it deprecations? Oh yeah, recipe, block, deprecations, npm, start. Okay, oh. It's my first day with, wait. Oh yeah, okay, cool. So let's see, I'm going to close all this and then come into plugins. I have to find it. Recipe block deprecations. There we go. Okay, so now that we have this one, go back in here. Block deprecations. We'll redo this. All right. Why I want to say it, but we'll say it. All right, cool. So this one tells a bit of a story, in that where is block deprecation? So all right. So the setup stuff is the same. Okay, so for this recipe, we're going to pretend that we've inherited a block from a client, from another whatever, right? And originally they wanted a custom block that just displayed their favorite chocolate chip recipe. That's all they wanted it to do. That's it, because clients be clienting, right? And so the original developers created a static block, and that just shows all of the information, all of the recipe, not editable in any way. It's just there. So what we want to do is we're going to insert this. What that is. Anyways, we're going to insert a new instance of this, and I think it's just going to be recipe block deprecation. So this looks very familiar, right? So if you're following along, the steps are very important, because in order to replicate block deprecations, which is literally something that nobody ever wants to do, and we're trying to do it here, you have to make sure that we're sort of saving in appropriate time. So insert a block, hit save, and then don't do anything. Okay, so there's a ton of information here, right? So we can look at the structure of the files. It's just like list items. It's pretty straightforward stuff. But again, it's all just very very, very sort of basic stuff. We're right there. So we can look at this. We can see that our save has got absolutely everything hard-coded, right? And our edit has got everything hard-coded as well. It's kind of a pointless block. It might as well just be some static HTML, right? Right. And so what we're going to do, what are we doing here? So opening it and look for the recipe content class to see the current structure. Okay, so the current structure looks like this. Place the code in both edit and save with this code below. We're going to make it we're making it a accordion. So we're going to grab this, and we're going to just come into our edit, and is it the full? I do this every time. Okay, the recipe content, we're just going to grab that, and we're going to replace it. And you can see we've added like a details with a summary and that stuff, and we're going to do the same thing with our save.js because they wanted to be able to make it expandable, right? So we've done that. I think we're building. It looks like we are building. So now let's jump back over here. Remember, we've already inserted this. We've already saved, and we refresh this now. We should get, block validation error. So I kind of explained this before, but I'll go over it again because it's super important. The reason that this happens is because the content saved in the database that represents this block doesn't match the content that's going to be returned from the save.js. And so again, the console is always going to be your best friend here. It's literally like, I'm not asking anyone to read through this and find the differences, but there's basically one part you've just got list items, another part you've got this summary block. So what do I do? Okay, and so in order to account for that, what we need to do is we're going to need to add a deprecation for the markup change that we just made. So if we look back in our index.js down at the bottom here, we've got deprecated. So deprecated could just be, you could just put the array in here, like to your point earlier, like you don't need to have a separate file, but you will see why a separate file becomes super important in about 2 steps. So we just, in our deprecations, we have this list, this is just an array, it's just returning an empty array right now. Right, and so we're gonna create a new one called markup change. This is just how we're gonna sort of keep it organized here, right? So we're gonna create a new variable called markup change, and then in that variable, I don't think I could have just grabbed this, but we're gonna define an object that is gonna represent each deprecation, and I'm just gonna replace that. So you can see here we have attributes. So this block has no attributes right now, but we have to include that to tell the block editor, yeah, we know there's no attributes here, but it has to know that. And then this save is just a function that returns the contents of the save.js before we made the change. So if you know that you're going to be converting, or you're going to be making changes, I would recommend copying the save.js first and then making those changes, because it's very tedious to go back and be like, what did they change, and have to figure that out. So, right, and so we have that in place now, and that's really all that's going on in here. And then we want to make sure that we're exporting it into our array down here at the bottom. So I'm going to grab the name, oops, grab that, put it in deprecations, boop. Right, and so now this is going to be exported, and so now it's going to be one of the deprecations. And so now if we come back to our broken page right here, we should be able to refresh, and now it knows how to track those changes. Right, so that's the first deprecation. So the second thing, so the client comes back, right, and says, I want to add a title to the block. I want to be able to tell it, like, this is the title of my recipe, right? So we store that with the block. So to do that, we need to add an attribute. And let's take a drink. So in your block JSON, we're just going to add this. And this is just defining an attribute for this particular block. It doesn't matter where in the block JSON it goes. You can put it kind of wherever you want. It's just an object. But this is going to say, okay, now we have this thing called title, and it's the type of string, and the default value is going to be classic chocolate chip cookies. Right. So in our edit.js, we're going to convert what is currently an H2 into this rich text component that's going to allow us to type things into there. So the way that I like to do it is I like to basically take the rich text. Well, in this case, I like to just copy and paste, but where's that? The title, got to find the title. Lost the title right there. So what I like to do is I like to make sure that I'm keeping all of the classes and everything in here. So so rich text has a property called tag name, and this is the tag that's going to be rendered on the front end. So because this was an H2, we want it to continue to be an H2. Sorry, this thing keeps popping up. The other thing I've noticed that we're missing the class name. So we need to make sure that we have the class name in there as well. So we'll move that over there. This onChange function is what happens when somebody types. And so we're going to be using a function called setAttributes that comes from the block API to be able to update our attribute called title with whatever new title is, meaning like as you type, you get this new title variable and it just gets updated there. But you notice I have some squiggly red lines here, and that's because I need to get access to them from inside the edit component. So up at the top of the edit component here, we are doing this magical thing called destructuring, meaning that we're retrieving, there's an object passed to this edit component, and we are pulling just the things we want off of it and leaving everything else. You'll see this pattern everywhere. It's very, very handy. You could do it like, you may also see something like this, that's props, right? And then you would have to do something like this, right? Attributes, set attributes. That's functionally the same thing. You could also access it like props.set attributes. That would work too. Well, this wouldn't work like that, but you can access those things in that way. But like I said, you will see this destructuring pattern probably more often than not. So this is the function to update. Now we have to get access to the attributes and specifically this title attribute that we are importing. So we're going to do that again using destructuring because attributes is in and of itself, it's an object as well. So now we have this title variable, and we can display that title variable in the value of rich text. And so now we have no more red squigglies, which is how I judge how good I am of a developer. If there's squigglies, I'm doing something wrong. And so if we save this now, well, actually, let me check to make sure we're saving this. Oh yeah, so we also have to make this change on the save.js side too. So we're going to grab the same things. We're not setting anything via save.js, we're just accessing it. So up here in the save, we're going to destructure out attributes. I'm going to grab title. There's a lot of jumping around here, but right. So we're going to pull title from attributes, and the biggest part is we're going to be using this. So this rich text.content. So right in here, right. So we're going to do this again. We're replacing our H2 with the rich text.content. This content is like an inner function component that will retrieve whatever's saved in this rich text instance and put it and output it as an wrapped inside of an H2 basically. In this case, and that's all we have to do there. And just to double check that, no more things that aren't put out. So now we can rebuild this. Right? We should be able to. Building. Oh, we're running into a problem here. What's the issue? Oh, because I didn't delete this, so we had two. There we go. Oops. Let's refresh this now. Okay, so now we should be able to set the title of the recipe right there. So that's immediately a much better experience. You can type in there, right? So save this. Okay. You can, yeah. You can add default. You can add a thing called placeholder. So this is the you'd say something like type here, right? And then if you delete, let me just refresh this. You can do that. You can see we have a placeholder. So this isn't a default value. It's more of a placeholder. But there is a default value defined in here, and I'm unsure why it's not showing up. But what you could do is you could do it another way. Actually, I'll show you this trick. So if you're in the edit, you could do something like title, and you can set a default value of this is the default value. You can do it that way. It's a bit not great, but that's another way of doing it. So this will say use this, And if it's empty, use this as the default value for it. Okay, cool. So we can refresh, reload that. Okay. Okay, so we've made a change. This is great. Client's super happy. And then they say, you know what? I don't like, it shouldn't be called title. It should be called name, because I don't know why client cares what the attribute's called, but they might, right? So now they want to change it to from title to name, which is great. So we'll just come in here and we'll just change in the block JSON. We'll change title. We'll change it to name, right? And then we'll have to make some of the updates. So instead of pulling off title, we're going to pull off name now. So back in here, should go name. Oops, spell it right. All right, we'll make the change down in here. Same thing here. Complete busy work, but hey, they're paying by the hour. All right. And then we'll just make sure that we're updating the attribute. Oh, sorry, I should have mentioned this. The set attributes takes an object, and the property name is the attribute that we're updating, and the value of it is the new value of it. So I didn't explain that before. So now, okay, we've done all this, Now we should be able to come over here, and we should get another block validation error. And because the attributes are not the same, the output's not the same, what are we doing here, folks, right? So we need to tell the block editor how to handle this change of attributes. So again, we do that with another block deprecation. So I'm just going to copy this whole bit, and then we can talk through it a little bit. So in our deprecations, we're just going to add another object in here. Okay, and it's called change attribute name. So what we're doing is we're adding this in, right? But if we notice that the name of the attribute here is title, so we need to include in our deprecation the attribute structure, the way that the attribute definition that existed before the change. So that's what this is doing. This is just saying, okay, it used to be called title, now it's called this. Or actually, it just used to be called title. And then this is it's the same markup. I'm realizing that I am missing something in here. Oops, sorry. There's a component missing. Where's that come from? Block editor, rich text, right? So this is just all the markup from Save.js, which doesn't really matter other than the fact that we're just accessing a different variable name, but we want to make sure that this is correct, right? And then, oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one here. So you can see, so it used to be called title, and now it's, that's the way it used to look. Now the important part here is this is a new sort of property. It's called migrate, and this is basically a function that allows you to map things to things. And so what we want to do here is we want to migrate the title to the new name attribute, and it's done by basically just returning an object that represents its attributes and potentially in inner blocks if that's a thing. And so that's all we're doing. We're saying, okay, so name gets the value of attributes.title, which is the old thing. And so that migrates all that over for us. Now we should be able to, first we have to export it. I'm going to add it to our list of deprecations down here. All right. And, that's not what I wanted to do at all. Now I can't, get lost, okay. And so now we should be able to refresh this and have that block validation error go away, because now we've told it how to handle that stuff. Any question?
So I've been avoiding clicking attempt recovery. What happens when you click attempt recovery that we don't want to happen?
You do want it to happen, just not here. Because what it'll do is it'll fix it. It'll try to fix it for you the best it can. But the problem with it is that if you don't do these deprecations, this will happen in every instance where this block is occurring. So if you have one post with one instance, you can go in there, temp recovery, hit save. It's probably going to be fine. It will actually be fine. But if you have 1,000 posts with 1,000 and 10 different editors, you're going to get block validation errors all over the place. Static blocks are a bit problematic because they don't inherit new changes unless you go in and press save. So the reason I'm telling people not to do it here, and maybe I should have been more clear about that, is because we want to fix the validation errors in code. We don't want the block editor to do it. The block editor is actually quite good at doing it now. Like it's pretty good, but we want to avoid those as much as possible. Yes?
Say you have a block that's gone through several evolutions. You've got
have to account for all deprecations.
Well, the block definition is only one definition. So you will need to have every iteration in your deprecations list, and it just basically finds the one it needs and makes it work. At that point, you may want to consider possibly converting to a dynamic block like we did earlier, because if you have, say you have a 5-year-old blog with the same block that you've just iterated on for 5 years, there's going to be markup changes in like every instance of that might be slightly different. If it's just like a personal blog, it doesn't matter, cool. But if you're like if you have a very specific like branding standard for a client, I used to work at an agency, and every few years the client would come in with a complete new branding scheme, right? And so we would have to make sure that every block, every markup, all that stuff matched the new brand guidelines, right? So if you have 5-year-old posts, you don't want to have to like go through them all, and it's very hard to do programmatically. I think there might be a plugin or two or some CLI commands that can kind of do it, but you might just want to convert to dynamic, and then you only have one markup that you have to worry about. It's a good question. Thank you. Anyone else have a question? No. Okay. Okay. So where do we end up here? Right. Okay. So we can change to inner blocks. I don't think this actually generates a thing. So let's make this block actually useful, where you can actually make changes to it, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to use inner blocks to be able to have our list items be inserted and editable and sortable and all of that stuff. So there's a lot of copy and paste in here. I'm just going to grab it and then we can talk through it. So the edit.js, and I grab all of this stuff over here to edit. I'm just going to plug it in. Say right there. This is just defining a list of block definitions. So this is going to be inserted. It's going to insert a core details block with a couple of properties, and then it's going to be inside of that we're going to have a list block, and inside of that we're going to have a bunch of list items. So this is not something you're probably going to do a lot of, but you'll see why this makes sense in a second. And then what we're going to do is we're going to replace the recipe content, which is down here, which is these hard-coded details blocks. We're going to replace that with the same wrapping div, but with an inner blocks instance. So inner blocks is very, very powerful because you can use it to insert blocks. So you can put anything you want inside of this, right? Now, there's 2 properties that I'm using. There's a bunch of other properties, but the one that I'm using is allowed blocks. So this is what you are allowed to insert. So because this is supposed to be like a list, I only want to be able to do a details block and a list block. And list blocks they by default allow the list item blocks inside of it. And then I want to have a starting template, and that's what this big constant is up here. So it's going to set this up with basically 2 details blocks with a bunch of list stuff in it, and essentially just rebuild our ingredients list. That's the edit side. And then on the JS side, I'm going to make sure. Oh, did I not import it? Let's see. Probably didn't import it. Oh, it's there, okay. And then on the save side, we're going to do something very similar. Inner blocks, okay, and so we're going to grab that. This one's much easier. All we have to do is just replace the recipe content with the inner blocks, with innerblocks.content, like we did, similar to how we did the rich text, right? So, and that's just going to return the stuff that we're building out. So let's say build it in refresh, and I think the block editor has gotten a lot better. There's a 50-50 chance we will not get a validation error here. So, oh, there we go. It was the first 50. So this is actually great. It means that the block editor was able to figure out a lot more complicated things, because we just did some pretty complicated, like some very complicated changes to a static block, and it just made it work, right? I believe the reason it's getting better is because the markup has not changed. If we were to make a subtle change to the markup, it might actually cause an error. So let's test that theory actually in the save. You know what? I'm not going to test that theory. It's, yeah. Okay, so, but if we did need to do a deprecation for this, I can show us how to do it. So we're going to take this is the most complicated one, and then we're pretty much done here. Where'd that go? Right there. So in our deprecations file again, we're just going to add this big old object, and so in the where'd it go? It's right. It's huge. So again, our attributes stay the same. It's what they were before, but we need to keep it in there so it's consistent. The save, we have to make sure that the save, what's returned from the save, match the previous iteration. So you can see that our recipe content is still the way it was before. The migrate becomes a lot more complicated because what we're trying to do is migrate from a single, like basically no blocks, 2 blocks, and so this is using create blocks to dynamically generate these things. So if you had, say, a list of paragraph blocks that were making up all of your recipe ingredients in steps, then you could use this migrate to say, I actually want them to all be list items, and so you would just do that using the create block tool, and this is just doing a bunch of tricksy magic to generate blocks for us. But anyways. And let's just see, convert list to innerbox. The last step is just to make sure that we are actually exporting it. Ba-boom, and we should refresh and still not get a validation error, which is great. But that pretty much wraps up block validation errors, right? Any questions? This is a really deep, sort of obtuse concept that hopefully you won't have to run into very often. But did you have a question? Okay.
Can you use roles within blocks so that this role can edit everything, but this role could only change?
Yes, you could do that. Now, I mean, you'd have to get into some kind of custom role thing because I mean, most of the roles in WordPress can create content, but you could definitely create blocks where you're accessing the data store to find out who's currently logged in, what access levels do they have. If they have this access level, then give them this more complicated control. Yeah, it's totally possible. It's very, very custom though. I don't have a good example to show you here, but it is absolutely possible. Oh yeah, you can do anything in WordPress. The laugh and the head shake. That was perfect. Okay. What's next? 36 minutes. That's that number? Okay, cool. All right, so we're getting through a whole bunch here. So what's the next one? Okay, command palette commands. Command palette commands. This is going to be so hard to say many, many times. All right, so this is another new one. I love the command palette. Has everyone used the command palette? Anyone familiar? Don't know what it is? Okay, I'll show you in a second. All right, so let's do the regular old setup stuff that I do here. Command, palette? I don't know. Sure, that's how we're going to spell it. That's not right. Is that right? Nope. That's it. Sure. Yay. Great success. Okay, and we'll go into plugins, and we'll go into, where is it? Where is my custom commands? There we go. Okay. Okay, so we'll go into the command palette. So the command palette is super fun, and it's getting expanded. It will be much more expanded in 6.9. I think we'll have command palettes available to us in other places outside of the site editor and the block editor, which is really cool. So let me just show you what it is. Okay, so when I hit Command K, boop, this little thing comes up here. So this is like a quick tool. So like if I wanted to say, if I wanted to enter something, or if I want to show or hide the settings panel, right? So it's like quick keys almost, right? Like it's smart, and you can do some pretty complicated things with it. I like it because you can customize it. You can add your own thing. So we're going to add some ones that do nothing of any importance, and one that's actually I think should be in core. So you can steal this code, contribute it, and take all the credit, which is perfect. Okay, so custom commands. Open this up. So all we're doing in custom commands in here is I'm queuing a couple of files. This first file is it's a spoiler for what we're about to do. It's a third-party library that shoots confetti on the screen, and then the actual JavaScript that we're building. So there's nothing super crazy going on here. And if we look at the source file of in here, you can see I have a whole bunch of imports. I have a render component that right now just returns null, because actually we don't need it to return anything. And then we're using the register plugin API to get our code into the block editor. So this is just boilerplate stuff. So yeah, we're doing that. Okay, so when we talk about commands, why does it keep doing that? When we talk about commands, there's two types of commands. We have a static command and a dynamic command, and WordPress likes to call things static and dynamic, apparently. But both types receive an object of a name, a label, an icon, a callback, basically what's run when the command is invoked, and then there's a context one, which is it's the context of the command, but not where the command is used, but rather where it gets a bit more exposed, if that makes sense. That'll probably make sense in a second here. So what we're going to do is we're going to just generate this really simple command right here. We're going to use the use command function. We're going to just plunk it right in here. Okay, and what this is going to, I think I'm missing something here. Yes, missing something. Okay, cool. So this is registering a command for us. So we're going to call this. It's got a name. It should be like a unique name because you don't want it to be confused with something else. The label is great success, and the icon is going to be. It's just one of the icons that I pulled in from the icon library. So star filled, and then we have this callback. So callback gets a function called close, and close is you call close to close the command palette window, and then in this callback, this is where you want to do whatever it is that this command does. So let's get the build process going here. Oops. I guess where am I here? So custom commands npm start, and we'll just let that do the thing. So we'll come in here. I'm going to refresh this. So we hit Command K now. I should have a great success. And when I hit that, I get confetti on the screen. Yay, so fun and useless. But that's a really great example of just doing something that's kind of fun, right? I think my friend Kevin did this, so I'm going to give him credit. But that's a really simple command. It's really not that, absolutely no use in real world. But yeah. So the other thing is, I spend a lot of time working with custom fields, and I'm sure a lot of other folks do. And to show and hide custom fields in a post is 1, 2, scroll down, 3, 4 clicks to deal with that. And so multiply that by 1,000 times, and it's a lot of work, right? So we're going to build a command that does this for us, right? Because I don't ever like doing this. I'm a developer and I'm lazy. So okay, so let's look at the next command. So we're going to just copy and paste this again. It's a very simple command. This is still a static command. I'm just going to drop it down in here. And again, we're just going to be show or hide custom fields. We have this icon called replace that looks like a show and hide thing. And then this is just some JavaScript to submit the form that shows and hides that field. There is actually a hidden form in there that when you click that like toggle button, it just resubmits the page. So we're just doing that with JavaScript. And so now if we come back over here, we should be able to Command K, show or hide custom fields. It reloads the page. Now we've got custom fields, right? So we can show or hide custom fields again, and see how much faster that is. It's so cool, love it, which is great. However, this only works in places where you can show custom fields. So if we were to come over to the site editor, for example, come in here, we go into the editor, we can pick any template, or actually just even here, and we hit this, we can say show or hide custom fields. And I'm hitting the return button, but it's not doing anything. What's actually happening under here is we've got some console errors, right? Because the query selector that I'm running is trying to select something that's not there, and I'm accessing it, and I'm doing really bad development practices here. I should be checking to make sure that this stuff exists. So I could fix it by doing that. I could come into the command and inside of our callback, I could check to make sure that does this exist, and if it does exist, then run it. But that would put us in a situation where we have that command, but it doesn't do anything. So it would still be available to us, but it would do nothing. So it's weird. So what we want to do is we want to have a conditional command, a command that's only available in places where it needs to be available. So we can do that with excuse me. So with by adding this very complicated use select, which I will explain in a second. I'm just going to add it. Should add it up here, right? So this is doing some things. We're using the data store. If you've never used the data store in WordPress, it is a fun afternoon. Basically, what we're checking for is get the current post type, or get the object of the current post type, what it represents, right? And then we're going to check to see, is it viewable, meaning like, is it public? Like, is it, because you can register a post type that doesn't have a UI. Does it support custom fields? And are we in the site editor? And so this is just going to check all that stuff for us, because that's the only time, sorry, are we not in the site editor? That's the only time that we want this command to be registered. So we can do that, and we can add this if statement all around our use command hook, and those React folks in the room are probably they probably know where I'm going with this. Right, so we have an if statement in here, and see, we're getting this error. Now this will work. This should work. You can see that I'm in the site editor, and if I type grade 6, oh, it's still there. Maybe it's not building. When I tested this, oh yeah. So I think this is working because I'm doing stuff that I shouldn't be doing. I shouldn't be, I should not be, but where?
First if statement, that's your second one there, right?
I have 2 if statements in here? Where?
I watched you paste it twice.
Oh, you're right, it's not conditional. Who said that? You get a t-shirt. Absolutely, thank you. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so yeah, you're right. So we should be looking for show or hide custom fields, and it's not here. So, but if we go back to the if we go back to the site or the block editor, we should have show or hide, and it should be showing in there. So that's working. Now what we're doing here is we're violating the rules of hooks in React. So if you're familiar with that concept, React hooks always need to be rendered every single time. So they either are like, and they always need to be rendered at the top. So that's why this thing is yelling at me here. As you can see, it does work. But if you were trying to pass linting or you have some sort of automated tests on GitHub or something, this is probably going to get flagged and you won't be able to do it. So there's another way of doing this, and it's via a dynamic command. So we will do that. I can't believe I was like, hey, it's working exactly the way I told it to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that stuff, and we're going to use a new command called use command loader. And so use command loader allows us to do much more dynamic things and generate our list of commands sort of on the fly, if you will. So we're going to come in here. I'm going to get rid of this whole if statement, right? And I'm just going to do that. So it takes a name. The name is sort of the machine name of this. Now it's a little confusing because the hook property is actually expecting an array of commands, all of which have their own names. So you can kind of think of it as like if you have a whole set of commands that kind of go together, this could be like the overall name, like if it's like cool stuff I do in the editor or whatever, and then each one can have its own. So we need to define a hook. So it's a React hook that is going to generate our list of commands. So I've already done all that, and I will just show you here. So we have this hook called use toggle custom fields. I'm just going to, and to make sure that we are not violating the rules of hooks. That should have formatted. Okay, what have I done? Oh, because I didn't get the whole thing. It's my first day. There we go. All right, so we're going to actually just place this hook outside of this render component, and we're going to call it in there. All right, so I'm just going to, it doesn't matter where you put this, I put it there, but I'll kind of take us through it. So again, this is a hook. Inside of it, we're using the useSelect hook to get all that logic that we're looking for to find out, are we in the site editor? What's the current post type? Does the current post type, is it viewable? Does it support custom fields? All that sort of check stuff. And then we're generating, we're initializing an array called commands, and then we're doing our check in here. And all I'm doing is doing a .push to put the command into the array if that if statement is true. So by doing this, we're not violating the rules of hooks. And then we're going to return the commands, and then this is loading as we're hard coding it as false. So is loading is used if you were, say you wanted to do a search for pages, like you were looking for a particular page with a particular name, you'll have to wait for the data store to stop loading in order to see those results. So in there, you would have an is loading mechanism. So anyways, but for what we're doing today, we're not waiting on anything. We're just going to say loading is false. And then, so now we're passing that hook in here, and we should see really no difference in here. Show or hide custom fields, right? And then in our editor, we should not see show or hide custom fields, and we don't. So that is great success. Yes. See how I tied that in? Yes. Come on now. And that's oh right. Then there's one more way that you can do it. So everything that we've talked about right now is within the confines of, or in the context of React, inside of a React component. So if you want to use the use selects, the use hooks, the React hooks, you have to be inside of a component. It won't work outside of it. You'll get all kinds of weird errors. So there is another way to trigger or to register these commands if you're in a position where you don't have a component, right? And there's a lot of cases where you would, like when we were registering our block variations and we were doing that stuff, that wasn't inside of a React component at all. That we were just calling an API inside of a JavaScript and enqueuing that JavaScript file. So to do it outside of React, we're going to grab something called dispatch, which I think I'm just going to grab the code and we're going to talk about it. That's what we're going to do. And we can kind of put this anywhere. Where did I put it? I put below the. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it in here. So dispatch. Oh, am I not importing button? I don't think I'm importing button. Okay. So dispatch is a data store thing. If you think of it, you can tell a store to do something by calling dispatch. You can say dispatch this action, this thing that I want you to do. Right? And so that's what we're doing here. We're telling the command store to dispatch a register command call. And we're passing it all the same information that we would have passed it to command or use command and use command loader. But this is completely outside of the context of React. So this is probably how you're going to be doing it more than any other way of doing it. But I wanted to show both. So what this one does is it shows the icon labels. So if we were to come into, where am I here? Now this one I didn't do any conditional stuff on here, but if I were to go, what is it, show or hide button text label. So you can see it's showing the text, and this is just a preference that is in the in here under accessibility, I believe. So there's a lot of is that it? Yeah, here. So it's the same idea, but we're triggering that dynamically through the command, again, by dispatching on the core preferences store. We're toggling a particular preference, and that preference is show icon labels. Any questions about that? That wraps up command palettes stuff. Yes, in the back.
Isn't Command A the shortcut for creating a link? Why did you pick that? And can you change it?
I didn't pick the command, but core is it? Command K? Yeah. Okay, it's contextual. So if you have text highlighted and you hit, oh, look at that. Oh, that's weird. First time I did it, I did get it, but now I'm not getting it. It's Command K, you said? That's a good question. You may have just found a bug. Let's see. So I think you can set. I think you can mess with the keyboard shortcut settings, but I don't know if you can do it. Yeah, come in. I wonder if it's. So I don't see command in here. Text formatting. Remove a link. Convert selected text into a link. Let me try this here. There might be some kind of weird. I can't even. This is a link. Type it. So I select that Command K. That is a link. www.wordpress.org. Whatever. And then if I do this, then it does that. Okay. So then I grab that. I grab this. Command K. Okay. It's contextual. So which is really nice, but also super confusing because you're expecting it to do one thing when it's doing something else. But that's thanks for calling that out. I had no idea that it did that. I don't know what the decision was around Y command K, but there's probably a GitHub issue that we can track down and find that out. Does anyone else have any questions or anything? No? Okay, we got 18 minutes left. What one's next? So, command palette. Oh, I don't think we have enough time to do a dark light mode toggle, but we can try. This is the awkward moment where you're like, oh yeah, this is going to take way more than 18 minutes to do this, but we can try. Yeah. The excerpt? Yeah, well, it might be a little, it's a little less involved, yeah. So are we okay with trying that one? We okay with trying that? Okay, cool. So this one actually is very, very cool. Let's check it out. Okay, I'm gonna quit talking more, less talking, more coding, right? Let's go. Okay, so this is recipes. Binding, if I can find it, where is it? Hurry. Hurry. Binding the excerpt to a block. Okay, so this is again block binding. So I don't know what is going on with my Zoom here. It's all over the place. Okay, so let's get in there. I'm going to close this. So this is very fun because remember we were talking about block bindings and we were talking about custom bindings. This is part of that. So we're gonna get into that. So preset bound excerpt is what it's called. Bound excerpt. Okay, npm start. Okay, I'm going to hide this. Okay, so let's take a look. So the first thing that we want to do is we're going to register a block binding source because, like I said before, the only block binding source that we have available to us through core is post meta. So if we want to bind a block to anything other than that, we have to provide both the back end and the front end for it. So the first step of doing that is by registering that on the server side. So let's go, oh my God, I can't find it. Where's it? Bound excerpt. So in here. So this is just some code that's going to enqueue our JavaScript, but what we're going to do here is on the init action, we're going to call a register block binding source. So the block binding source is going to have a name. In this case, it's block developer cookbook /excerpt. You can call it whatever you want. It just needs to be unique. We're going to have a label for it. We're going to have a get value callback. So this is going to be how we retrieve the value of this source. And this is going to use I have names there. It's going to use this retrieve excerpt binding. And then we're going to use a certain type of context. So a context is kind of a JavaScript idea of like, we need to know certain things in the context of where this is being called. And so in our case, what we need is the post ID because we want to get the excerpt of the post that we're editing, not some other excerpt, right? So we need to have the access to that post ID to be able to retrieve it in our getValue callback. So in this retrieve excerpt binding function, which is referred here, we're going to get the post ID of the block instance in the context from post ID that we defined a little bit earlier. And then we're going to get the current post, and then we're going to pull the post excerpt from that post. And that's basically, we've done the back end part of wiring up the custom binding source. So I think I've talked through all of this already. Okay, and so the next thing that we're going to do, we do have a custom binding in place now. So there's no UI for this, unfortunately. There's only the UI for the core thing. So what we can do is we can take this code and we can drop it into a new post. I'm just going to put it in this post. Just ignore the name, it's not the name anymore. Right, so if we jump over to the code editor, we can paste that in there, and you can see we're doing our metadata bindings content. The source is this stuff, right? And if I save this now and I switch this over, I should. This is the excerpt. I'm not going to type that right. All right. We'll save that. And did I not paste that in? Oh, thank you. 2 shirts for you, good sir. I knew I was going to do that at least once. Where am I here? Bound excerpt. There we go. Thank you so much for that. Is this where I am? Yeah, okay. We'll refresh this. Okay, and we'll do this. And so now we've got, this just says post excerpt, right? So down here, we've got our content. Our content is connected. It's supposed to be, you could connect it to this as well, but remember, we've already registered that other post meta from before. But what we're actually connected to is post excerpt, which has been defined right here. So we have made that connection, but if we notice, it just looks like this. If we were to save and publish this, you can see on the front end it renders the excerpt, but in the block editor right now, it's just showing that that's what you've connected it to. So it's great, but it's not that great. So the next step is, I think, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So we have all this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do what we did before and add a block variation, because we don't want anyone to have to come in and copy and paste all that really awkward markup and all that metadata stuff. So we're just going to do this in our bound excerpt right here. So this is the same thing that we did before. It's going to be a variation of the core paragraph block. It's called bound excerpt, but all this stuff. The is active, again, is going to check to see if the values in metadata.bindings.content.source match the values that we've defined in attributes and some other things. So now if we come back in here, not there, sorry. We should be able to refresh this, and now I should be able to delete this post. And I should be able to do bound excerpt. So you can see it's done all that for us. So this is just like a convenience method, basically. Not really kind of what we're doing with block bindings, but this makes it so much easier to insert, because again, there's no UI at all for this. So your only option is copy and paste really complicated markup or do this. All right, the next one. So yeah, I showed all that. So now we want to read and write the values into the block editor. So I'm going to just, again, copy and paste this in, and then we'll talk through it a little bit. So we've already registered a block variation. So what we're doing here is we're registering a block binding source for the client side. So on the PHP side, we've already done that. So registered the block variation source. So PHP knows about it, but now the block editor doesn't know how to work with it, other than just displaying the name that we've defined. So what we're doing is we're going to give it a label. We're going to give it a name. The name has to match the same name that's in PHP. That's how those dots get connected. And then there's three functions that we're going to work with. The first one is get values, which is how do we retrieve the value? There's set values. How do we obviously write the value back? And then there's can user edit value. So this is a permissions thing around, you can do roles and stuff in there. And I'm just returning true because I like to YOLO it, I guess, but you should probably put some things in here if that's what you need to do, right? So what we're doing is we're using the data store for both sections. We have a select. Now a select in the context of a data store is give me something from the data store, a specific one. In WordPress, we have a select function that accepts the name of the store. So in here it's the core editor. I just happen to know that the core editor has a function called get edited post attribute, and we're going to retrieve the excerpt from it. So that's going to pull it into JavaScript for us. And then the set values does the opposite of that. So we have this dispatch method, which means do something in the store, tell the store to do something, and the store is the same. And we're going to tell it to edit the post. We're going to set the excerpt to bindings, content.new value. So this is something that's passed to this function from the API. So we can get whatever that brand new value is that was entered, right? And then the user edit thing, you can return whatever you want on there. So I think, let's see. Yeah, that's just, okay. I think we might be done. Hold on, let's check. All right, so if I refresh this, I'm just gonna save this. I'm gonna refresh this. Now, there we go. So you can see, this is actually saying what, I'm pointing at my screen like you know what I'm pointing at. This excerpt thing is actually, it's here. So if we want to say, no, this is the new excerpt. So it's now we have two-way editing on here. I'm never ever going to spell excerpt right in a million years. It's fine. See, and so now it's updating here, right? So if I can't, how can we? I don't think I can display. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Check this out. Oh, it used to work. Come on now. So. Yeah. So anyways, so that's basically how you set it up. So you have to do the server side and you have to do the JavaScript side. Now, someone was asking me about controlling the editing. Was it you? About not allowing folks to edit the content of the post meta? Somebody was asking me that question. I can't remember who, but this could be how you would do it. You could kind of re-roll the core the way that post meta is doing it, and you can use this okay, there we go. You could use this to control this, because if you pass false here and you refresh this, let me just save that. You refresh this, you won't. I don't think I can edit this at all. Now I'm saying this with not having tested it, but I'm typing and you can't edit it at all. So this would be how you could control certain user levels. What's kind of cool about this is you could also be like, oh yeah, only make this editable if it's inside of a group block, or only make it editable if it's in a certain context from within. It's stored in a pattern. If it's not in a pattern, don't make it editable. Like, you can do some really, really cool things inside of there as long as you sort of have access to the data source, which you do. Question? Yes. Yes, you can. You can do that. Yes, absolutely. I have a talk that I did at WordCamp Lisboa this year where I show some examples of doing that. I can show you if you want to come up after. Yeah, so I have about 7 minutes left. Not enough to do any more things, but happy to answer questions. We can chat. Is anyone? Let me ask a question. Was anyone actually able to get any of the npx commands to run? Yeah? Yes? Nice. Okay. Cool. Well, I'm going to put this. I'm going to say thank you. We got 6.5 minutes left, so we can definitely talk. I can walk around. We can figure this out. But if you could give me some feedback on there, good, bad, ugly, I appreciate it. It helps me do better, make better presentations, make better words. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming out. This was the first time I've ever done this at WordCamp US, and yeah, thanks so much for having me. Okay. Thank you.